This is Sanjay Patel, and you're listening to Bad Deals.
Welcome to Bad Deals, the only real estate horror podcast on the air. I'm Jay Basega, your host, bringing you war stories from the top warriors in the real estate game today, all with crucial lessons in the end. Because in real estate, the worst deals often teach the most valuable lessons. Let's get started. Welcome to Bad Deals, the only show where we show you that real estate is not all sunshine and hockey stick growth. There are trials, challenges, and yes, bad deals. I'm your host, Jay Basega, and my guest today is Mr. Sanjay Patel, my friend, my partner. Sanjay, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. It's a pleasure. Sanjay syndicates and operates multifamily properties, and he has a short-term rental in Branson, Missouri. In the past, he's flipped houses, and he's also done some private money lending. So it's a pretty storied experience here.
Yeah, thank you. I actually been in real estate since about 2017. I can thank my wife for getting me into it.
Did she push you into it, or?
Well, I was a software engineer, so I was working, and she was looking for something to do, and she's the one that started doing fix and flips. So the bad deal that we're going to talk about is actually one of our earliest deals that we had when we started flipping. So.
Oh, I like that. That's good, man. That's so interesting. You know, when you told me about that at first, I love how driven your wife was to get you guys into this. And I mean, you know, I feel you a lot as a software engineer. This was something, I don't feel like I had to be pushed into it as much as just kicked into it or thrown into it by life.
Yeah, it's similar. I was working for about over 25 years, and It was time for a change, and she knew it, so she was trying to find something that I could eventually come and help her with. So,
Awesome. Well, hey, it's good to have you here. It's good to have a fellow software engineer up in here. For those of you listeners who don't know, I am also a software engineer, although I don't have anywhere near as much experience as Sanjay does. But yeah, this is now an engineering podcast, is what this is. Sanjay, what is the bad deal that we are going to talk about today?
Okay, so we used to flip houses in Washington D.C., and this particular one was one of the early ones that we did. We actually purchased a townhome, and we were going to end up gutting it and create two condos out of it. So essentially a condo conversion out of a townhome. Like I said, it was one of the early ones, probably bit off a little more than we could chew with that one, but it was good. Purchased the townhome for about $570K, which was good. ARV, we were supposed to be able to sell each of the condos and for about I think ARV was $450 or something. So looking to make a pretty decent. Total ARV was 1.2, I believe, on sale, because the condo purchase price was $570K. We ended up with construction costs and everything. We were expecting about another $400,000 to $500,000 in construction costs. So a decent profit, right? 1.2 with $100,000 or $1 million of outlay. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty handsome spread. Did you source this deal yourself?
It was actually something that was brought. It was wholesale to my wife and her partner. She had a partner at the time. They were in a mastermind, so this is probably one of the lessons learned. It was brought to her. She was in a mastermind, and sort of the teachers of the mastermind, one of them brought this to her.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, okay. I want to come back to that. I really do.
Yes.
That's great. So you're in this flip deal. At what point did you start seeing that, hey, maybe this isn't going to work out the way the way we think it would?
Okay, so it starts out okay. I mean, demolition, we didn't really need permits or so, so they started doing all the demo and everything. But then we kept getting delays on permitting from DC,
Mm.
and DC is known for
What?
having a
What
heavy.
do you mean? I've never heard of any kind of bureaucracy in DC at all.
I
I'm
know.
very surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
but and we kept hearing about permitting delays. The contractor and the architect that we were working with kept saying, it's delayed, it's delayed. So we keep going that way, and obviously, as you know, holding costs are the biggest no-no in
Mm-hmm.
fix and flips. Um, and it was on a hard money loan because
Yeah.
we the that's the way we did fix and flips. It was a
Mm-hmm.
relatively large loan. We did end up having to refinance after 1 year because it was taking so long. And we changed contractors, we changed architects.
Ooh.
Um, And eventually, my wife actually went down to the permitting office, and she was herself, and she found the pictures and stuff that were being submitted were nothing. We looked at those and were like, what is this? It's like we could tell that we could tell we're neither one of us is an architect. We could tell
Uh-huh.
that they're they're like copied and pasted from somewhere, and stuff like that. And so
So
uh,
wait, so the plans that your GC, your architect, gave the permitting office were not even really the plans for your
well,
project?
that's the plan that the architect and the GC were saying that we were going to use, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and and every time we would get notification that, oh, there needs to be changes or
Hmm.
whatever, and permit. But apparently, anytime that was happening, they actually weren't going back and making the changes that were requested. They were sort of they were either resubmitting old stuff, or so that was the cause of a lot of delays. So
Yeah,
it wasn't totally the bureaucracy, although the bureaucracy helped. Um,
sure.
it was it was a combination of the GC as well as the architect, and it was almost a perfect storm of what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a complete failure in communication, really.
Yes.
Wow. Man, that's so yeah, I could see that being the point where you start to think things are, well, this is not going to go the way what I think it will.
No, like I said, we refinanced after 1 year. We actually we started the project in August of 2018. We ended up wholesaling it at a loss in early 2020, um, because we weren't going to be able to get another refinance at that point
Wow.
because it had taken too long. Um, uh, it, and I think we ended up being able to recoup some because of the demo, and
Hmm.
because by that point we had actually been able to get some valid plans through,
Yeah.
and it was a lot closer to being actually the permits were a lot closer. So we ended up losing about 150K on it, which it being one of your first flips wasn't very encouraging in the business,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
uh,
Man,
yeah,
I'm so happy because I for shameless plug for any listeners who have not gone back and listened to the first episode of the show where I talk about the flip deal that I did that went terribly. Man, I talked about how I was lucky to get out with what I did and not really lose a ton of money. And I mean, it's not, success is by no means guaranteed.
No. And I will say that there's a number of things that we definitely knew we would not be repeating.
Yeah.
Some of it had to be a lot closer supervision on the architects and the GC. One of the things, the one thing I didn't say is I talked about, the deal came to us from one of the teachers of the mastermind. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? The GC and architect were also recommended and sort of affiliated with them.
The hole gets deeper. The hole gets deeper.
It does. Wow. So let's just say that we weren't part of that mastermind for very long after that.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see how you might feel that way after. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What? I'm not asking to name names because, frankly, it's not useful. No. But was it like was it specifically a fix and flip mastermind?
It was for fix and flips. It was. Yeah. It wasn't one of the big, national known names or anything. This we joined a mentorship program, so that's how we got into fix and flips and stuff. But yep. This was a local mastermind that my wife had found, yep. And there are folks that had a lot of experience in DC flipping houses. So it was one of those. Let's do this. There's a lot of newbies in the mastermind itself, and there were 3 or 4 of them that ended up not quite as long a story as ours, but had similar experiences. So, at the time we weren't the only ones in the same boat, but
But it wasn't widespread enough to where you guys put together a class action lawsuit against it.
And it wasn't gonna. It didn't make sense to do something like that because we probably would have ended up spending more in legal fees and stuff like that than we ever would have gotten back. Right. So
right. Yeah, and it's. I mean, that's really that's what the show's about. You take the L, you move on. I mean, that's an expensive mistake.
That's an expensive mistake, but we learned from it. We actually had successful flips after that. So, while that was going on as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to stop you real quick, Sanjay, because I want to hear about the success that you've had after recovering from that. But first, I want to take just a quick second so we can have a word from our sponsor.
Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. I was just enjoying a nice Earl Grey. You might think there's whiskey in that glass, but not everything in our world is as it seems. For instance, real estate gurus would have you believe that the best way to protect and grow your wealth through real estate is to get out there, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and start buying houses. Preferably from them. Sure, that could work fine for some people. But if you're a high earner, chances are there are things you want to do with your time outside of work. Things like playing golf, having romantic dinners with your spouse, playing with your children, exercising, and cracking open a cold one with the boys. And the fact is, you can get the benefits of real estate investing without having to deal with tenants, toilets, or bad deals. The key, though, is mitigating your risk by doing it the right way. I want to show you the right way. And that's why I just wrote a book, The Minimalist Guide to Multifamily Investing. I could sell this on Amazon. Actually, I am selling this on Amazon. But I think it'd be more fun to just give it to you for free. And you can get it for free today by going to minimalistmultifamilybook.com. That's minimalistmultifamilybook.com. Quit drinking the fake stuff sold to you by the gurus and reach for the real stuff. Cheers.
And we are back. So, Sanjay, I want to talk about we talked about the result here, but I want to talk about what was the result of learning this $150,000 lesson, this MBA in real-time business.
Yeah, it's one of those shake yourself off and keep going because it it the idea was we knew that we knew the risks because obviously we went into it. We also learned a number of lessons, primarily how to keep better track of the architects and the GCs and
Mm,
not necessarily take their word for what they were doing in terms of the permitting process. When we started this one, we were very inexperienced in flipping, and we didn't realize how easy it was for us to go down to the permitting office and actually discuss with them what we needed to do as well. And I think that I think that would have helped us keep track of what needed to go on
mm,
a little better. Um, we did pivot a little bit. We decided not to be as ambitious in terms of total conduct, uh, uh, total demo and rebuilt condos. So the subsequent flips were smaller, more value add type things, where we were able to take over a townhome, fix up the flooring, bathrooms, things like that, as opposed to total demo of inside and rebuild. Made
yeah.
permitting a lot easier as well because it wasn't as heavy. In a lot of cases, we didn't have to do permits, so that was one of the things that we look for. We look for properties that we didn't necessarily have to totally go through permitting, or if we did, it would have been a lot easier because it was a lot smaller than totally rebuilding the inside of the entire building.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It seems that just going through all of those, like a couple of things really stick out to me. One being just just taking more responsibility for the things that you got to take responsibility for as an operator. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
It very much reminds me. I don't know if you've read the E Myth, Sanjay, but
I have not. So
okay, it's
that's
a. I mean, it's a good read. I would recommend it. But there's a
okay.
stage that he talks about in the life cycle of an entrepreneur of a business where you just find a person to do stuff that you don't want to do. So it's not like you're actually leading; you're just kind of abdicating. And I've been very guilty of
Right.
that in the past.
Yeah.
So it's taking responsibility for what needs to be taken responsibility for. Always, I mean, a perennial lesson for me. I feel like I learn more about that with every deal, and also just I don't know. It seems like removing roadblocks that don't need to be there. Am I right? Like just
Right.
you're going for even even if it's not maybe as large of a payday, you're going for a smaller flip from there and stuff that requires less permitting, right?
Right. And so essentially less risk. So we lowered our risk a lot with the subsequent flips. And that helped us as well. I think one of the, like I said towards the beginning, we probably bit off more than we could chew with the whole condo conversion. That's probably something we should have waited until we had a number of flips under our belt,
Mm,
and we sort of knew the process a little better. Um, and we depended on the coaching and folks at the mastermind more than we should have,
mm,
because one of the things we found in subsequent flips, we did find contractors and folks that we could trust and we felt we could work with, and that helped as well. Sort of building those relationships ourselves instead of
right.
sort of piggybacking on someone else's relationship, and I think that helped a lot as well.
Yeah, no, that's I mean that's huge because I know that you and I are both huge fans of masterminds, right? Just
Yes,
in general, just getting in the right rooms with the right people to be able to do
exactly.
stuff that you want to like I want to walk into a room with somebody with a bunch of people that I can just say I want to be you when I grow up, right?
Exactly. I want to be when I walk into a mastermind. I want to be the guy that it, essentially the stupidest guy in the
Yeah.
room
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can learn from everybody else, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, I want to be able to make sure I can trust the folks that are in the room. And
Right. Yes.
this was probably one of the big lessons there is I looked at mentorships and masterminds a bit differently and how we chose different
Mm,
ones later on. You know, it, so
yeah.
I think a lot of it, I see not just in flipping, but in other things that we've done. We learned lessons, and this was good for that. So
Yes, and I mean, that really reminds me actually of somebody I just talked to for the first time the other week that I want to get on the show really bad because he has the same kind of experience as you, like somebody that like he used somebody that was recommended, actually multiple somebodies that were recommended by multiple coaches and leaders in his mastermind,
mhm.
and he got burned bad. So just I mean, the theme here is that trust but verify.
Yes,
You can't abstract everything with a mastermind. You can abstract a lot, and you can abstract your own, going beyond your own expertise, your own resources. But you're still, at the end of the day, like you're responsible. You're responsible for you and for who you bring on
exactly.
your team. Man, that's so
And
good. I love that.
yeah, and that was I think one of the other lessons from this is we did even though they were the coaches, it was still on us in terms of the project. We're the ones that needed to follow through because in the end it was our project, right? So
Mm, yes, absolutely. It's your project, and it sounds like, well, it sounds like the deals that you did after that were very very affected by your experience here and how
yes,
you operate them.
and not just in flipping. I mean, it carried on to
Hmm.
as we moved over into doing investments into multifamily as well as work, project we're on as well.
Hmm.
So
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's a core thing in business in general, but especially in building a real estate team where folks can try to be solopreneurs and maybe it's hard, honestly. Like building a team is difficult.
yeah,
And I think that's why I started so small because I didn't want to build a team. And I think, it's something that at a certain growth level everybody's got to become good at. And you're going to have failures. Like it's kind of inevitable.
right.
I have, for sure.
Yeah, and but it's one. It's like the saying goes, though: you don't fail unless you give up. So if
Mm,
you don't get up, that's the only time you fail is when you stop trying. So
yes.
if you actually this could have been a failure because it was one of our early experiences. We could have decided, forget real estate. It's not for us.
I'm
But
done. I'm all
yeah,
done. Like
yeah, but the that
mm,
we knew the potential there. We knew that the mistakes we made were fixable,
yeah.
and we didn't have to dwell on what happened there. We just learned from it and moved on
Yeah.
and made sure that we didn't make the same mistakes again. So although
Awesome. Although,
Uh, although the other bad deal I told you about
yeah.
happened concurrently with this, so a lot of
Nice.
similar mistakes.
We'll bury the lead on that one, and we'll come back. We'll
Yeah.
come back and talk about that. But man, Sanjay, so you, just to summarize, you got into a flip deal, a condo conversion where you bought a townhome, said we're going to make a nice spread on this with people that working with people from your mastermind, and it started okay, but as you went along, there were just roadblocks and more stuff that it just you saw the writing on the wall, it seems, and
Yeah.
eventually you got out of it, but you lost 150 on it. and which is a very expensive lesson, and you were able to take those lessons forward, which is what we are all about here. We are about failing upwards, failing forwards, not letting your failures actually be failures. So, man, thank you so much for sharing. This has been a pleasure, and I mean, believe me, I will have you back on to talk about the other one because I'm stoked for that too.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, where can people contact you, by the way, or is there anything that you would like to just plug?
Okay, well, first, you can contact me. Our website is www.cascadesps.com. So you can go there. There's a link to schedule a meeting with me if you're interested in investing in real estate. So more than happy to talk to folks. My email is Sanjay Patel at cascadesps.com. So that's an easy way of contacting me as well. But if you go to the website, it'll give you a link to my Calendly, and we can schedule a time to talk. So.
Sanjay, thank you so much, my friend. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for the listeners, I will talk to you all again soon. Don't just let failure be failure. Fail forward. Thanks, everybody.
On the next episode of Bad Deals.
I talked to the guy and I go, so, he's been up on the roof. I'm like, so, okay, like, what's it look like? He goes, my man, it's like a water bed up there. There's just water trapped between layer upon layer.
If you like the show you just heard, you can actually help us out a lot by following, subscribing, and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app.